To call to order the February 12th, 2025 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Bridget, would you please call the roll?
Director Ja? Here. Director Riquejo?
Present.
Director Ortiz?
Here.
Chairman Barclay?
Here.
Director Edie?
Here.
Chairman Barclay, with 5 members present, you have a quorum.
Of the Committee on Finance. Advise that our Chair of the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee, Art Jakes, is out of town on travel for work and would like to attend the meeting remotely. I have a motion to admit Director Jakes as well as Director Lee, who is absent here, to attend the meeting remotely.
I move that we admit Director Jakes and Director Lee remotely due to their work.
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Ortiz, that Director Bernard Jakes and Director Michelle Lee be permitted to attend the meeting remotely. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Riquejo?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Edie?
Yes.
Motion passes. Director Lee and Director Jakes, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And Chairman Barclay, you may turn the meeting over to Director Jakes.
Director Jakes, it's your meeting.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our next order of business is the approval of the committee minutes of January 15th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Ortiz, that the minutes from January 15th, 2025 be approved. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Riquejo?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director, you proceed to agenda item number 3.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the finance report. Tom McComb.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, directors.
Morning.
Morning. Tom McCone, Chief Financial Officer. Let me share my screen here. Chairman Jakes, can you see that?
I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So let me start today. This is going to be the December report. So what you'll see is the results for December along with the year-end results. So December is the end of our fiscal year, so you'll see the year-end results as well. So I'll spend a little bit more time talking about some of the results that we saw for the year, and you'll see some adjustments in December associated with that as well. So starting with the revenues side. Okay. December revenues coming in, Fare and Pass is coming in at budget, following the trend that we have seen throughout the year. Fares finishing slightly ahead of budget, fare box a little bit below budget. So positive trend there in terms of pass adoption. On the non-fare box side of things, we see 1.6 million positive to budget. That's primarily driven by investment income. So we have a slightly higher balance along with higher interest rates are delivering better investment income than budgeted. So allowing total results for the year for the month to come in 1.6 million ahead of budget. And then if we look at year to date, again, the pattern for the year follows the pattern for the month. So you can see Fare and Passes, 6 million better than budget, 22 million better than where we were last year. Total revenue for the year, 13.2 million positive to budget, 28.6 million ahead of where we were last year, coming in at 440.7 million total system generated revenue for the year. This is actually about $50,000 off of what our forecast was in the budget book. So remarkably close in terms of that forecast, and kind of right on target with what we expected from a totals perspective. Turning to the expenses side of things, we'll look at the monthly expenses first, and then I'll go to the year-end results. So labor coming in negative to budget. We took a couple of adjustments to the labor line, a couple of accounting for accrued sick and holiday time this year. So that contributed to an additional expense. We had some additional FICA payments associated with some of the back pay and the additional labor costs this year. So that all was a source of some of those December adjustments. You'll see the year-to-date number comes in positive to budget. Power and our injuries and damages provisions, those were also timing and year-end adjustments. Security services comes in negative to budget. This is both on track with our forecast, and then there's also some additional expense associated with Chicago police deployment. So we had a few more Chicago police expenses in the month of December contributing to that negative variance. And then other expenses, positive to budget. This trend we expected because of reduced debt service expense and reduced contractual services expense. So on the year to date, you'll see the impact of those December adjustments. So labor coming in basically on budget, slightly positive to budget. So that allowed us to make some of those year-end adjustments to that labor line. Material, fuel, power, all coming in positive to budget. For fuel, that was a combination of slightly lower usage and then also lower price per gallon for power. Similarly, lower usage contributing to that one, even as we had increased power rates. Injuries and damages, you'll see we took an additional $10 million contribution to that injuries and damages reserve. This actual expense of about $30 million is similar to what we've seen in previous years. 2021, 2022, we had similar levels of this. We saw slightly higher payments out of the reserve than we had anticipated when the budget was put together. We saw payments of about $31 million this year. So we decided to go ahead, use some of that positive variance and then put that back into the damages reserve to account for those additional payments. Security services finishes the year at $91 million in expenses. You know, next year that's budgeted at $85 million. So the budget has been increased on that particular line. We do expect it to finish below this year's actual expenses. And then other expenses, we've been talking about the positive to budget trend on there throughout the year. As I mentioned, lower debt service, lower expenses for contractual services, all contributing to that positive variance in other expenses. So year to date, finished $57 million positive to budget on the expenses side. On the public funding, final results are coming in there from the sales tax, but you can see sales tax and the associated match on that coming in positive to budget. That's a trend we've been seeing through the second half of the year. Real estate transfer tax negative for the month of December, not terribly so that we can see 8.2 million positive to budget for the month. And then for the year to date so far on public funding, 11.7 million positive to budget. This is a trend that we saw starting last month where our public funding turned positive to budget. We do expect when we get those final sales tax results through December that this will continue and we'll see positive results on our public funding. And then on the federal relief side of things, as you know, we withdrew our remaining federal relief funds from the federal grants that they were associated with, took them against eligible expenses, and we created our designated operating reserve to fund our gap in fiscal year 2025. The beginning balance in December of that was $687 million. We withdrew $61 million for the month, leaving us $626 million on balance, more than sufficient to support the operations in fiscal year 2025. Now, on the commodities side of things, it's not coming up, but I will just mention that there has not been any movement there. We do have an open RFP for our power purchase. That's the one commodity that remains unpurchased for fiscal year 2026. So we're hoping to get results soon on that RFP. That concludes my report. Director and Chairman, I'm available for any questions.
Tom, thank you so much. My monthly question is how are we looking as it relates to the fiscal cliff now that you've drawn down all of the federal funding and it's enough to last us through 2025? What provisions are being set for 2026 and 2027?
Yeah, so here's our designated operating reserve. We anticipated using, in 2025, using $578 million of this reserve, which as you can see would leave a little bit remaining for fiscal year 2026. But obviously we projected in the budget a gap of $539 million. So we're actively making sure that folks know kind of what the need is at the CTA in terms of what that fiscal gap is. And then making sure that as solutions are put in place, that folks understand the need that we have at CTA for that funding to avoid the fiscal cliff at the start of 2026.
Have you began looking at, I hate to be doom and gloom, but what's worst case scenario?
So the gap that we have for 26 is $600 million. That grows to $642 million in 2027. As you know, that is a significant portion of our budget. And so, our budget primarily funds service, right? We do not have high administrative expenses. And that's the kind of thing where we would be looking at ways in which we would have to adjust our service to address a gap of that size.
And Director Jakes, this is Dora Learson. I would just add, as we mentioned to you in our briefings, those discussions around laying out for the public and for legislators the details of what an impact like that would look like to our service, that's underway, and that's actually something we're going to be bringing to you next month as information for you to understand as people see what the impact would be. The Regional Transit Authority has been discussing it as a 40% service impact. But we're going to lay out in detail kind of what that means to a rider and to communities to have that be more real for people to understand the realities of what that would be.
And Madam President, that is great information to share publicly, because I fully believe the public needs to be aware and assist us in participating in lobbying and advocating for Springfield to do their part, because it is going to affect ridership and service. So thank you for that. And I enjoy saying Madam President.
The one thing I would add as well is, alternatively, we're also going to be talking to you about what appropriate levels of funding would provide. So not just what would happen if that funding did not arrive, but the enhancements and the opportunity that getting the correct amount of funding would give to our communities.
Good. Thank you. I have no further questions, Georgette.
Thank you. We'll take questions from other members of the board. Director Ja.
Thank you.
Director Requejo.
Yeah, just quickly, thanks, Tom, for another excellent year of keeping track of our finances. Are there any implications so far in the changes in policy at the federal level, both at USDOT, FTA, and executive orders? Are they impacting us yet, or are we thinking about implications coming up?
So we're watching it very closely. Obviously, there's a lot of activity happening at the federal level. Some of it, moves forward, and then some of it rolls back. I will say that we have been monitoring our grants. So just to back up a little bit, our federal funding is the primary support for our capital program. We get $400 million plus a year for federal funds for the capital program. And on top of that, we have additional discretionary grants. Those are funding Red Purple modernization, so the Red Line North, and they're also funding the Red Line extension. Those have all been secured. We continue to draw against those awarded and obligated grants. The money continues to come back for reimbursement. So we have not seen a direct impact yet on any of the funds that are secured with USDOT. We're keeping an eye on everything, right? Because everything changes as time passes and policies evolve. But we haven't seen an impact yet, but we'll be sure to keep you posted as more information becomes available.
Thank you. And just to make it clear and on the record, we are not worried about implications for the Red Line extension as of. Correct.
Same questions. Thank you.
Chairman Barclay.
No questions. Thank you.
Director Eady.
Yeah, returning back to Chairman Jakes' question concerning the fiscal cliff, could you just apprise me of what steps have all been taken in terms of getting the support of legislators? Are you foreseeing any challenges? Give me some feedback on that.
Yeah, I think we've done a couple of things. It's a lot about kind of educating others on sort of how the funding works regionally and how it's allocated to the CTA and kind of how the gap has developed. So I'll start out by saying, we have outlined, and we did this in our budget and in our budget presentations, but we've been using the information in terms of our overhead rate, right? We have the lowest overhead rate amongst our peer agencies, right? We run a highly efficient organization, right? So there's not any sort of fluff or excess within that in which you can sort of get enough to address the cliff, right? We've looked at the subsidy per rider. The CTA has the lowest public subsidy per rider amongst our peer agencies, right? Highlighting the fact that there is a gap in public funding that we experience here. And then also noting too, that the way that the the formula has evolved over time, right, in terms of how the public funding is delivered, right? One was put in place in 1983, one was put in place in 2008, and you had evolutions off of that. Well, as it's all evolved over time, our share of funding has continued to diminish. We get about 46% of the total regional funding, and we're providing 84% of the rides, or supporting 84% of the rides. So I think that's all been helpful information in terms of laying the groundwork for those discussions around, what does, additional revenues look like, and what does that future allocation look like, so that it's fair across all of the region.
And I guess I'm just trying to see where is the greatest pushback in terms of that argument that you're receiving.
I don't know that we have seen a lot of pushback. I think it's a lot of, oh, I didn't realize that, right? I didn't realize that was how it works, or how things have shaken out over time. I think it's been more of a education process than it has been necessarily a pushback on that.
And Director Eady, I'll just add, I think not necessarily a pushback, but what's also in the conversation other than funding is a dominant narrative about reforms and how the region may continue to improve itself and function better on a regional level. We're engaged in those conversations as well. We don't think you have to just talk about one or the other, but much of the reform discussion is also closely related to funding discussion. The changes, improvements that are sought to be seen very much also require appropriate funding to achieve.
Thank you.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions. You may now proceed to agenda item number 4.
Agenda item 4 is the review of an ordinance authorizing a pilot program agreement with STV Incorporated for a safety pilot under the Chicago Transit Authority's Innovation Studio program. Molly Poppy and Kyra Bader, or was it Kara? I apologize if I'm pronouncing your first name incorrectly. How do you pronounce your first name? Is it Kyra or Kara?
It's Kara, Director. Thank you.
Kara. Okay, thank you, Kara.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Directors. I'm Molly Poppy, Chief Planning and Innovation Officer. I'm joined by Kara Bader, the Vice President of Strategy and Innovation. We are here to seek approval on the next pilot project under the Innovation Studio program. As a reminder, Innovation Studio was launched last year and enables the agency to test innovative solutions and cutting-edge technology to help solve some of our biggest challenges. In the inaugural year of Innovation Studio, CTA identified 3 problem statements. One of the problem statements was targeted towards addressing safety and service reliability. The problem statement sought solutions for automatically detecting people or large objects on the tracks to enable swift intervention. Right-of-way intrusions are a safety concern for our riders and our employees, but they also cause service reliability challenges because the agency is forced to delay trains until the tracks are clear. In fact, in 2024, there were over 2,000 reported incidents of right-of-way incursions, many causing significant delays in service. And this year, right-of-way incursion incidents are up 32% compared to the same time period in 24. Today, we are seeking approval for a $60,000 stipend for a 1-year pilot to be provided by STV Inc. STV was selected from the 14 submitted proposals to pilot a strategically placed cameras and an artificial intelligence detection solution that will automatically detect people or large objects on the rail right-of-way and alert appropriate personnel of the incident to enable swift intervention by CTA. STV's proposed solution leverages cameras at the stations. An on-site edge device will be installed for real-time video processing and analysis. By monitoring trajectories and predicting intents for all pedestrians via camera data, STV's solution provides a real-time insight to identify and prevent right-of-way intrusions. In the case of a person or object entering an identified area or a stopped object on the tracks, a real-time alert can be triggered to notify the appropriate CTA staff to take action. To successfully conduct a pilot at 2 rail stations with up to 4 cameras each, we are recommending approval of a 1-year pilot program agreement and awarding a $60,000 stipend to STV. This cost covers all hardware involved in the pilot and a license for real-time alert monitoring software. Project management, installation support, model training, and testing hours will be provided at no cost to CTA as part of the pilot. Hardware will remain in CTA's possession following the pilot. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
So Molly, thank you. The pilot, and it's going to notify in real time the rail operator or someone. Do they have a time that they will do it? When they say in real time, are we talking 5 minutes? And let me give the reason I'm asking this, because whatever was being used, and I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of it now, as it relates to someone being on the platform to see if they have a gun. The question that we kept raising was, with this, whatever the name is, not shot spotter, but whatever it is okay, if someone has a gun, who does it notify? And then who does it notify after that? And the result was that it was going to take, the person could probably be 5 miles away by the time it gets to the appropriate person to see if that person has a weapon. So what is the time between notification and getting it to the proper person to respond to whoever is on the track or doing whatever they're doing?
Thanks, Director. I'll answer that one. Part of the purpose of the pilot will be to determine what is the fastest response time we can reliably provide based on the accuracy of detection as well as the relay of information to appropriate parties. I think the benefit of looking at this on a pilot basis is exactly the challenges that you lay out. In this case, we are the intervening actor if there is a right-of-way intrusion, and so we can coordinate directly with our staff at the control center as well as rail operations, who will be a part of the project team, to understand how the model is working, how fast it can detect one of these incidents with high accuracy, and then where the alert should be appropriately sent. That's why we'll have licenses for up to 25 users to be in the system at any given time. But we recognize that there are trade-offs of high quality information versus the speed of information. And I think that this is only one of a set of tools that the agency is pursuing to manage right-of-way intrusion incidents. And so we'll be looking at its effectiveness in line with other tools and tactics that we apply and figure out if this is up to snuff and should be scaled, or if we should be investing in some of these alternate initiatives that are happening at the agency. So it's a very long, in some ways, non-answer, but a validation that that's the right question. And the purpose of the pilot will be to put real data to that, to run through some use cases in the real world and get a sense of how long is it taking now when we have to rely on rider reports, operator reports, other call-ins, versus how quickly could we shorten that interaction, not only to prevent delays, but also to prevent serious injury or loss of life.
Will it be able to spot a weapon?
No, it is primarily targeted towards large objects. So think like bikes, suitcases, things like that, that may end up on the tracks, and then people. It is not meant for gun detection.
Okay, thank you. No questions, Georgette.
We'll take questions from other members of the board. Thank you, Director Jakes. Director Zhao?
No questions, I think.
Director Requejo?
No questions. I just want to highlight that in the briefing for this, I found out there's 2,000 intrusion incidents per year, 2,000 in our system. And I think that's important for people to know, of which 19 were collisions between a train and a person. So this is very, very important to address technologically and beyond that. Thanks for the work.
Director Ortiz?
No questions. Thank you.
Chairman Barclay?
Just a comment, I want to tell you that I'm very supportive of this pilot program. I think that it's what Director Fail said, people lost their lives. being in the right way, right or wrong, but those are casualties that those families suffered serious loss. And so if we can save one life by slowing our trains down or turning off the electricity or whatever, it might be, it's very valuable to us. So I think this is a move in the right direction. I'm anxious to see the results a year from now when you come back and bring the data so we can fully analyze it. But I think this is a move in the right direction. The last thing I want to say is I want to see more of these kinds of innovation projects. I know we just started a year ago, but it seems to keep that when you can build a better mousetrap, it's going to enhance it. So I think that we just want to see more of these kinds of opportunities.
Right. Yeah, we'll happily bring you more.
Help me to understand how the AI system or technology feeds into all of this.
Yeah, so it's camera-based technology, and there's going to be an edge device actually at the platform. So what will happen is the AI-based technology on the camera will be able to detect the person directly at the station, and you will notify them that there is someone on the platform. So the benefit of having all of this on the edge and doing it directly at the platform is you're able to be quicker. So you're not having to send all the video feed up to a server that then analyzes it and then does the alert. What happens is the alert, the analytics is happening directly at the station with the AI machine learning tool that is developed by STV. And then you're able to just send the alert up, and alerts travel much faster than camera or images. And so that does allow for quicker access. So that's why we're structuring it this way, is with an on the edge or at the station tool.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I just add, sorry, I know there was 19 weeks to get all the setup and the pilot actually started, right?
So we'll be doing 5 weeks of prep. That's determining stations, installing hardware, getting all the technology ready for go live. Then there will be 5 weeks of model training and validation. And so that will be looking at identifying pedestrian intents, more or less, which is a way of saying that this person looks like they might go off the platform, and testing that with STV's model to detect those intents. So calibrating, understanding, is this a false positive? Is this a risky enough level that we should get an alert? And then there will be there'll be at least 6 weeks of the model running live in the field to potentially detect incidents at those 2 pilot stations. Our vendors indicated some flexibility on extending that a couple of weeks if we don't necessarily detect incidents, or if we need to, train an incident to see how it's working. But then we'll have access to that full dashboard to look at the full history of data, compare the observation period to the test period, and determine where to go from there.
So the pilot run after that, and I'm loosely using 20 weeks. It sounds like somewhere close to 15 to 20 weeks. What happens after the 20 weeks period?
So as a part of the project team, we'll obviously be working with Control Center, rail operations, infrastructure, and others. And that's where we can look at this data and make a determination. Should we move forward and scale, try to purchase more equipment, think about a pilot phase 2? Should we be looking to procure this at scale and sort of accelerating that? We don't need to wait for a year if we've found something that works really well. But it gives us a good decision point to figure out, do we need to rescope a little bit? Do we need to go back to the drawing board? And I think that compared to some of the other initiatives and pilots that we've discussed with this board, it gives us a really good checkpoint early on, where this is a fast, structured initiative.
And within the 20 weeks where the pilot is running, if there's an incident that is not a false positive, if there is an incident that it is able to detect, are you also then running the next steps as part of the pilot? Or, I mean, is there a scenario where we could be able to prevent something as part of this pilot, and that would be a data that you would be looking at, or is that out of scope?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, in the first 5 weeks, we'll have stakeholders at, for example, Control, thinking through, if I'm going to get a valid incident, or at least what is structured as a valid incident, how am I going to respond to that? I think, this will include not only while the pilot's running, you're getting an alert, but we're hopeful that we should be doing something about that alert I won't sit here and say innovation is the one that should be deciding what operations does. I think this is going to be a collaborative process that determines how can we put this tool to work in the right way. But the idea is that in the observation period, if we get an actionable alert, we're taking action.
Okay, so I think that's part of the question is if there is an actual alert as part of the pilot, I think it's important to set up like the rules of the engagement. Say if you do get it, here's the expected way of responding. So that way it's a holistic pilot and it's not, we as an innovation team is just doing that and, we're going to let them decide how they want to respond. So I think like if you guys can kind of get together on that before you start the pilot to have that end-to-end solution, just in terms of like what they could do, maybe like a high level, if that happens, we should do that.
Yeah.
Not wait for, and then the second part of that is if something were to be prevented within the pilot, I think I would love to see some bias for action and say you may not have to have the ability to scale everywhere, but let's not wait for a year to do analysis paralysis and let's just quickly activate. If you can expand it this year rather than waiting for the whole year to kind of like come up and make a decision would be like my two things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be the goal is if we are able to notice quick success, let's build on that quick success. Let's not wait.
Like how it goes at the end of it too. Like if it's like a high level, hey, we saw some good wins or nah, we tried it, not moving forward, just so we know and we're not waiting till the end of the year to get an update on it.
Absolutely.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
Oh, actually, I have one.
Director Lee,
Oh,
if you have a question.
Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, just one comment, but also one question. So very supportive. Thank you for the work and bringing this together. Excited to see the pilot and where it goes. But I guess that would encourage us to think more broadly in terms of like, let's not have 10 different AI tools for 10 different things. If there's, an opportunity to find one solution or more solutions that kind of do more things instead of having to always add more installation or more hardware, et cetera. That just seems like overhead. So just something to consider. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Director Lee. Absolutely.
May I
Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
May I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Ortiz that this be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Requejo?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, we may now proceed to agenda item number 5, our purchase and sales award recommendation.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number A1 through A3, which are contract awards for transit operations. I have no questions.
Take questions from other members of the board. Director Ja?
Any questions?
Director Requejo?
Questions?
Director Ortiz?
No questions.
Chairman Barclay?
No question.
Director Eady?
No question.
Director Lee?
None. Thank you.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions. You may now proceed to contract numbers B1 through B3.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number B1 through B3, which are contract awards for infrastructure. No questions, Georgette.
Take questions from other members of the board. Director Ja?
No questions?
Director Requejo?
No questions.
Director Ortiz?
None.
Chairman Barclay?
Done.
Director Eady?
No.
Director Lee?
None. Thank you.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number C1, which is a contract award for finance. No questions.
Director Ja?
Question.
Director Requejo?
No questions.
Director Ortiz?
None.
Chairman Barclay?
No question.
Director Eady?
No question.
Director Lee?
None. Thank you.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions on those contracts.
Our next order of business is the review of contract number G1, which is a contract award for technology. No questions.
Director Ja,
No questions.
Director Urquejo,
No questions.
Director Ortiz,
No questions.
Chairman Barclay,
No question.
Director Eady,
No question.
Director Lee,
None, thank you.
Director Jakes, you may now proceed to contract I-1.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number I-1, which is a contract award for law. No questions.
Director Ja,
No questions.
Director Urquejo,
No questions.
Director Ortiz,
No questions.
Chairman Barclay,
No question.
Director Eady,
No question.
Director Lee,
None, thank you.
Director Jakes. There are no questions and there are no further questions and there are no further contracts to review.
Since there are no further questions on the contracts, may I have leave to place the 9 contracts on the omnibus?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Ortiz that the 9 contracts be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Urquejo,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Eady,
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Yes. Number 5B, since there is no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and recommend the omnibus for board approval?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Ortiz that the omnibus be recommended for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Urquejo,
Yes.
Director Ortiz.
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Eady,
Yes.
Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
The motion passes.
And finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Ortiz, that this meeting of the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee be adjourned. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Urquejo,
Yes.
Director Ortiz, Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Eady,
Yes.
Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
Director Jakes, the motion passes.
Chicago Transit Board for February 12th, 2025. Director, please call the roll.
Director Ja?
Here.
Director Urquejo,
Present.
Director Ortiz,
Here.
Chairman Barclay,
Here.
Director Eady,
Here.
Chairman Barclay, you do have a quorum.
We were advised prior to the meeting, today's meeting, that Director Jakes and Director Lee were unable to attend this meeting in person due to work commitment. Chair will entertain a motion to permit both Director Jakes and Director Lee to participate in this meeting remotely.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Ja. Y'all switch, okay. That Director Jakes and Director Lee be permitted to attend the meeting remotely due to travel and work commitments. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja, Director Urquejo,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay, Director Eady.
Yes.
The motion passes.
The next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 15th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Ja, that the minutes from the regular CTA board meeting of January 15th, 2025 be approved. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Eady,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Director Urquejo,
Yes.
Director Ja.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Our next order of business is public comment. Georgette?
Chairman Barclay, we do have 4 public commentators for today. And we have two that are in writing, from John Paul Jones and Evelyn McAndrew. I would like to invite our public commentators to come up when I call your name. Please be advised that you must keep your comments to 3 minutes. We are glad you're here. And our first person, I do not see Patricia Fuentes. Is Patricia Fuentes here? We'll go on to our next public commentator, Arthur Thomas.
It's not my last name, but.
Okay, sorry. Please tell us your last name.
Errol.
Arthur Harrell.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you very much. My apologies.
So,
Mr. Harrell, give me 1 second. And you may begin.
hi there. I'm Arthur from Evanston. I'm a CTA writer. I wanted to talk a little bit about the CTA Second Chance program and why I think it should be turned into a full apprenticeship program. As y'all are aware, the Second Chance program is nominally a job reentry program. The idea being that folks with barriers to employment can do a stint in this project, gain some experience, and then find work elsewhere. In practice, I've heard it mostly hires folks released from prison, has them clean buses, rail cars, among other jobs. And in principle, I think this idea is great. Those of us who have constrained job prospects still need work like everyone else. And it's good the CTA is providing this opportunity. But from other things I've heard, the program also creates a kind of underclass within the CTA, a subset of employees who do the exact same work as other CTA workers, but for less pay, fewer benefits, and under a shorter leash. And this nominally temporary gig becomes a recurring gig for about a quarter of its participants. And I've also heard that complaining about these conditions, even sometimes up to safety violations, can put a second chancer at risk of losing their job with all the hardship that entails. According to an article in the Sun-Times, when confronted with this disparity, a CTA spokesperson excused it by describing what the second chancers do as somehow not a job per se, which I think is a weird thing to say about people who do the same thing as other CTA workers, whom I think we all can agree have jobs. So I think it's great to extend job opportunities to folks with barriers for employment. I find the prospect of the CTA having a built-in underclass to be a bit troubling. So what to do about it? I've seen the second chancers called apprentices by the CTA before, and the best idea I've heard to resolve this disparity would be to make this program an actual apprenticeship where after a year-long period, a second chancer in good standing would be offered a full-time job as a regular CTA worker. If the CTA is going to hire the same people year after year to do the same sort of things as the rest of its workforce, then the least it can do is treat those people the same as any other employee. Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Harrell.
We'll pass that on to our president, if we can address that issue.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. If I may, Kim Robinson is here in the room, manages our Second Chance program, and if she'll connect with Mr. Harrell to discuss this further.
Our next commentator is Bill Morton.
Thank you all for hearing the needs and concerns of our constituents at the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce when we come here each month. Trudy Leung represented us last time around, and she mentioned ATU 130 Union Steward Eric Basir. Just to let everyone know, we've been interviewing with him on WLUW, WZRD, and CAN TV, and personal interviews, just to learn more about how the trains run, how the trains work, and we really do appreciate his participation with us, as well as his participation in our Chicago Transportation Facebook group. Did get a chance to attend the Q1 career fair info session over at Kennedy King College. I've got a lot of different resources. I was going to mention everybody, but I don't have the time for that. It was really informative. It really enlightened our community, and I was able to bring a lot of these resources right here to our constituents. I'd like to see the Northside career fair info session coming up. We are working on filling those empty storefronts in our newsletters, and it's going to be a part of our repertoire, part of my repertoire whenever I meet a business that's looking for a storefront, to ask them if they would be interested in having a storefront in one of those vacant CTA properties in Rogers Park. We discussed this before. I got the tour. I understand the condition of these spaces, and I feel I'd be doing my community a great disservice if I didn't work with our team and our board to help fill those storefronts. So I want to continue to make that connection. We've already got things in the works, and we already have a lines of communication with that. Two community concerns, two constituent concerns. Kathy Powers, she got hurt on the CTA. She filled in the form. She got what seemed to be a form letter back. And so I promised her that I would mention this. It seems like the responses seem like AI. That's what she said. So maybe a little bit more of a personal touch. It seems like it's like fill in the blanks, kind of AI. And she felt like you weren't listening to her. So that's why I mentioned it. And then we also have another constituent who I've mentioned before, Adam Mack, who would like to see live streams of the CTA. Not only for, not just for, fans on their couches, but also we feel that it would help increase security.
10 seconds.
It's with so many people watching all the time, it may do something. I understand there's a cost with the bandwidth and the Wi-Fi, and it's great, and you have the food vendors and all that, but maybe we can do something about that, and he requested I brought that up. Bill
Time.
Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, anything I can do for you? I know. Thank you.
So same again, Bill.
Yes, Chairman, Mr. Morton, please continue to speak with Mr. Bill Mooney on these topics. He's here today, and I know you've spoken before, but you can share with him your latest thoughts as well.
Welcome.
My last name is Turner.
I want everybody to be Thomas. 3 minutes.
Preferred energy supplier. So a lot of free of climate-wide, fortunate enough to pursue business and communications, numerous transportation concerns, and provide benefits to the CTA and Illinois climate is more on the ComEd billing side of things. So Chicago has sustainability in Illinois will utilize 100% renewable. Data indicates that power generated by the CTA, power coming from nuclear power plants, 22% coming from fossil fuel energy, and only 11% achieve 100% clean energy for all infrastructure, including garages, buses, trains, and rail cars, providing consumers with a more reliable mode of transportation and efficient mode of transportation, ensuring our rail system contributes to clean environment and community health. Also, while optimizing CTA's operating budget for power and fuel costs as transitioning to 100% clean energy is crucial for long-term asset protection, sustainability goals, and public image. So we are committed to taking the necessary steps for a beautiful and sustainable future for generations to come. As mentioned, to fulfill my role in supporting CTA and Clean Choices vision, we must collaboratively seek efforts and solutions to this global challenge. Our aim is to create an eco-friendly environment without incurring extra costs and can achieve this in under 5 minutes, all while remaining with ComEd.
Yeah, 5 seconds.
Our strategy and to accomplish this following element, providing the CTA with a power supply that ensures 100% clean energy entirely from local renewable resources benefiting the company and its consumers, contributing to the reduction of overall carbon emissions, while our product may potentially help decrease overall cost for the CTA as well. So
thank you, Mr. Turner.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And again, our president will basically assign it.
Yes, sir.
We have a cheesy phrase at the end that says, let's hop on.
But that was time.
Okay.
Let's register to speak also. Okay.
Thank you. And Molly Poppy will connect with you as well to discuss these initiatives. Thank you.
So Chairman Barclay, I would like to read, John Paul Jones submitted 2 written public comments. I think I'll read one, which concerns the Inglewood issue. And then Deaglan McAndrew has sent a public comment, which I will also read. Deaglan McAndrews, and I'm going to time myself. Deaglan McAndrews, I am writing on behalf of the Chicago Democratic Socialists of America's Fix the CTA campaign to strongly urge the CTA board members and the new CTA board president to take decisive action to improve public transportation for its riders and workers. It is critical to protect this essential service from the oncoming hostility and challenges posed by the Trump administration. Public transportation is a key means to improving equity amongst riders and workers, and as such, it should be to treat them with respect. The goals of the Chicago DSA's Fix the CTA campaign are as follows. Number one, meet and exceed pre-pandemic frequencies. Ensure that buses and trains must meet and exceed pre-pandemic service levels. Measures such as two-person crews on trains, full-time jobs for all CTA employees, paid sick leave, at least matching the Illinois mandated minimum would meet the fundamental needs of CTA workers and lead to better performing systems for both riders and workers. Number two, install brick and mortar bathrooms, provide accessible bathrooms at L stations and along bus routes for riders and workers. Number three, establish an elected transportation board, create a board that is accountable to riders and workers to guarantee their voices are heard. It's time to end the status quo that places public transit secondary to driving, a status quo that treats public transportation as a convenience rather than the essential service that it is. We both need transformational change that benefits riders and workers. With future federal grants in peril, the CTA must be willing to fight and demonstrate that it is essential to our transportation system. I believe that by working towards accomplishing these goals, we can have the public transit system that people want and deserve. Thank you for your time. Deaglan McAndrew. Okay. And we will submit both of John Paul Jones's public comments to the board in writing. And that concludes our public comments.
Thank you to all of you who came to share your thoughts and concerns. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Our next order of business is a report from the ADA Advisory Committee, which will be given by Laura Saltzman, who is the chair of the CTA's ADA Advisory.
I can go slow this time.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Laura Saltzman, and I am the chair of the ADA Advisory Committee and a senior policy analyst for Access Living. I'd like to congratulate Nora Learson for her new role as acting president of the CTA. The ADA Advisory Committee hopes to continue to work collaboratively and provide input on issues disabled people can have with the transit system. The ADA Advisory Committee met last month on January 13th, 2025. We began with transitions in our committee membership, welcoming Zoe Lanier and Milton Lash while expressing gratitude to Doreen Bogus and Mary Abramson, who completed their impactful 4-year terms. We were also pleased to have David Poe from CDOT to attend the ADA meeting. We look forward to CDOT's ongoing attendance at committee meetings and appreciate the help from the board in making that happen. All right. During Bill Mooney's infrastructure presentation, questions were raised about wayfinding features on station flooring, particularly at the 4 RPM stations. The committee discussed the need for built-in directional indicators and contrasting materials. The success of snow clearance around RPM stations was noted. However, there were concerns about sidewalk maintenance by adjacent construction projects, and the CTA was asked that it make an effort to report these issues to the city as workers are omnipresent in the area. The committee requested opportunities for accessibility walkthroughs of new stations before opening. In previous tours, we visited the Western Brown Line station before construction, and then recently the Damon Green Line station. However, because of a tight timeline, this was after construction and commenting on accessibility was less helpful. The importance of timing for these walkthroughs is key to allow for implementation of the committee's recommendations. We hope to continue to be invited to do tours before construction to better help CTA in its accessibility mission. Additionally, Kara Bather and Scott Wainwright presented on ridership. This presentation led to inquiries about rail travel patterns and customer demand throughout neighborhoods. In addition, it was suggested that the CTA examine how different rail lines serve local neighborhood travel versus downtown community. The committee emphasized the critical need for reliable rail service to support the substantial infrastructure investments being made, particularly regarding staffing levels. There has been substantive discussion on this issue, so I will not belabor the point. but I will note that unreliable and or reduced service presents an accessibility issue all on its own, especially when transfers can compound the problem. I hope that the CTA is doing all it can to get to previous levels of operators. During Kathleen Kennelly's customer service update, the committee engaged extensively with the new CTA chatbot feature. The committee suggested improvements to the complaint submission process, including suggestions for open-ended reporting options, the ability to move back or start the complaint over on chatbot, and for there to be more systematic evaluations of complaints. So when a consistent issue at a specific garage or station isn't being resolved, that matter gets raised further up the chain. The committee also mentioned ongoing challenges with smoking on trains. It is a public health problem that needs to be effectively addressed and has remained significantly more common than pre-pandemic. We realize this is a complicated issue and would like to make sure the focus is on interventions most likely to change and discourage the behavior. Research seems to be fairly consistent that consistent intervention is much more effective than a rare intervention accompanied by a harsher punishment. There's a reason smoking is not an issue on buses or metro. The severity of punishment isn't any different, just the likelihood you'll be caught. I want to stress that smoking is separate from eating or drinking. Behaviors it gets paired with at times, but that do not present public health problems the way smoking does. I had a lung ailment last year and while recovering, stopped taking the train outright because of how often people were smoking, even in the middle of summer. Notably, I did not have to stop taking the bus. I live in a transit-dense area, have hybrid employment, and could afford to take rideshare instead of the train when I had to. Even though it was still limiting and expensive, it was a privilege I could afford, and others will not be able to do the same. We need to keep all transit options open to everyone. Bus stop accessibility was brought up as well, and this showed how helpful it is to have CDOT present beyond a specific presentation. They could answer questions and promise follow-ups that CTA cannot because it is not their department. The partnership with CDOT on bus stop improvements was highlighted, with committee members suggesting ridership data collection to assess the impact of accessibility upgrades. The committee raised the safety pilot funding and asked for updates on specific plans for the funding. In general, and in the context of a program dealing with crisis response specifically. We were told CTA would be reaching out to the committee to follow up, and it was understood that beyond community engagement, there needs to be a sincere commitment and plan for service delivery with the money that has been placed in the budget. And thank you for the board for pushing for that. Looking ahead, the committee will continue monitoring these initiatives while maintaining our focus on comprehensive accessibility throughout the system. We appreciate the board's support of these efforts and look forward to further progress in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members for Ms. Hunt?
Director Jean, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Director Requejo?
Broader, I think you covered almost everything that as a board we've been looking at. So appreciate your focus on that.
Director Requejo?
No questions, thanks.
Director Ortiz?
Thank you for your leadership.
Director Eady?
No question.
Director Lee?
Thanks, Laura. No questions, just a comment that thanks for your work. And also, I also echo and concur about having earlier site visits. And, you know, I agree that accessibility needs to be not an afterthought. So thanks for bringing that up.
Director Jakes?
No questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item of business on the agenda will be Citizens Advisory Board report, which will be given by Tanya Raby, who is chair of the CTA Citizen Advisory.
Good morning. This is my first time being back at CTA in the new year, so happy new year to everyone and welcome to you, President Ian Learson. We're really happy to continue this work and get to know you in this space as well. So at our last meeting, which was, I wasn't able to attend, it was on the 30th, but I am very excited to report
updates from that meeting. And so we as a board have been working actively to set the tone for the future of this citizen advisory role with the CTA. And over the last couple of sessions, we've been more strategic and intentional about how we can be a stronger voice for CTA's riders. We had an opportunity to really work on an internal mission statement, and that is to provide for policy and innovation, which supports ridership in a responsible and accountable way. And we hope to work more in concert with the CTA board to all realize a better and brighter future for our city. So during the last meeting, we had a really robust conversation covering many areas of concern for riders across the city, specifically within safety, rider experience, and customer service. For safety, we came up with a few ideas, some high-level recommendations of focus. Members of our board agreed that we would like to see if there is an opportunity for TTA to revisit its agreement with the Chicago Police Department on assessing officer allocation, overtime pay, and the feasibility of reinstating a CTA police force. Considering a dedicated CTA security team for greater control over safety operations. We understand that there may be a feasibility study underway for that, and we just would like to also have any updates on where that is and if there are any opportunities to move forward with that. We also were informed that the CTA is exploring doing a review of the current safety plan for the purposes of looking at new safety strategies and the effectiveness of the current safety plan. And we would like to be part of that process and would like to know what the estimated time frame is for that study. We're also thinking about perceived safety versus actual safety in incidents. Our members agreed that based on conversations with riders from their communities, that the public has more of a perception that they are not safe versus the experience of assaults and batteries while riding public transit. We all resolved that the following will help CTA address the perception and make them feel safer. We agreed that we feel safe while on trains and buses and less safe while waiting for transit buses to arrive. More consistent service improves safety perception. Increased bus train frequency may also be more effective than adding to the security staff. Members also believe that a diverse ridership, whether that be gender, race, age, also enhances the sense of safety. The absence by and large of other demographics on public transit, like school children and elementary grade level children, increases the perception that CTA is not safe. So with that said, also looking into strengthening the partnership between CTA and Chicago Public Schools to improve, reduce fare access and enhance safety perceptions for students and their parents. Explore ways to shift some of the 400,000+ students that are attending CPS from using private transport to CTA. And then also we talked about public transit versus ride share and how riders have noted that they feel safer on public transit than using ride share in some situations. We've heard various reports about issues with ride share and how being in a public space with multiple eyes and witnesses reduces concerns around safety. And our recommendation is that CTA should capitalize on that public feeling with marketing and outreach. Returning to office safety, some second shift union employees have raised concerns about infrequency of service and long wait times at night. And that has cited contract language to address potential impacts. Fare evasion and safety. There's a possible link between fare evasion and crime, but there's no conclusive data in Chicago. But there's been some anecdotal cases that exist, but these are not a primary concern for our board. It's just something we thought was an interesting thing to look into. And then also the opportunity for discrete safety reporting, enhancing the support around the chatbot system that could allow riders to report issues directly to police and fire. And this was noted that it can be intimidating to press the call button while on the train if there is an active incident or active situation. Are there other ways that riders can, discreetly notify authorities if there's something going on? And then for experience in customer service, for operator customer service, we want to encourage a culture of warm and professional customer interactions to enhance rider experiences, which could also increase perceptions of safety. I know personally, I really enjoy being able to get on a train and, sometimes beyond the automated messages on the train, sometimes the operator will also say things like good morning or, really just kind of improving the experience. So those things are always nice. Cleanliness concerns, definitely want to see more clearer expectations for cleanliness and station maintenance. Right now, we're in a season where salting is very important, but we also want to think about how do we make sure that we're cleaning that salt up, because it does impact the infrastructure, breaking down the wood and on the tracks and the metals and things that are, those different components of our stations are kind of being eaten away by the salt. So just kind of like, how do we make sure that we're clearing that off when it's no longer used? And then also there's unresolved issues that some of our members have noted that have been witnessed still being there for over a month, so that's very concerning if you're seeing the same thing that should have been cleaned up quickly that's not been cleaned up for a month. And then also the complaint process. Right now, it's not very clear about the best reporting process for non-safety issues, whether using 311, the 311 app, or AAA, your CTA. Providing more transparency and feedback in that, and creating a loop so that customers can keep track of their complaints in the system. If there's some way to do that, similar to how 311's app works, where you can track your city complaints. And then we also would we understand that 18F is exploring some solutions within that space. And so the CAB would like to be part of those discussions as well. CTA versus city responsibilities, improving coordination between the CTA, the city, and JCDecaux on bus stop maintenance and customer complaints, because we understand that there may be some challenges there with cleanliness, especially when it comes to our bus stop maintenance. Mental health resources. We understand that this is a much bigger problem than the CTA, but if the CTA and CDPH can work together, perhaps working with the team that does the city's mobile health work, maybe there's some way to connect and join in the effort to help address mental health concerns that impact the CTA. Those are just some things that we hope to see in the future. And then finally, back to the chat box. We like the chat bot. And so our reviews so far have been overwhelmingly positive within at least, just what we understand of it. And so we're, sharing back that there have been quick responses to smoking complaints when using the chat bot. So we would like to elevate that as a opportunity for CCA to really continue to build upon, so that complaints can be more quickly addressed. That is my report for the CYB. And thank you all.
Thank you for a very comprehensive report. I know on behalf of the board, we appreciate the work that your board does, as well as the ADA committee. So thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chairman.
No, thank you. I agree with you.
Director Rakeo.
Thanks for the extensive list. And I was particularly worried about that cleanliness situation that was sitting there for a month, if I understood correctly. Is that what the member said?
Yes. One of our members described a situation actually at the Clark and Lake station where I'm guessing like someone threw some soup on one of the doors leading out of the station, and that soup remained on the doors and on the floor for a month. And this is a station that's pretty popular in the loop. And so it's just really odd that there hadn't been any attention paid to it in that time frame.
Thank you for that. And this is a type of example that illustrates, the needs that we have in the system. And I appreciate your members for keeping CTA accountable. Would love to figure out how to resolve this issue so it doesn't happen again. And are there areas where you see particular traction, improvement in CTA from the point of view of your members, and particularly areas where there's improvement and traction in collaborating with CTA to get to solutions? There was a very extensive list, so I wanted to figure out what are the top 2-3 things where you see traction again to better engage with your committee and get to some of those solutions.
That's a very good question. I think that we are most excited generally, and I don't necessarily want to speak for the individuals, but just from my understanding, we are very excited about innovative things that are coming to play. We're appreciative of the innovations team and a lot of the new technology that's coming on board with really helping us to better communicate with CTA. I think that's probably one of our biggest concerns, and that really covers a lot of the things that I shared. Just really having that ease of communication and sharing back with CTA what's happening in real time. And so I feel like we're getting closer to that. And we just really want to continue to build on that with the CTA and offer our feedback and fully immerse ourselves in that, because we see that that is the future, and that's really going to help response times to, decrease.
And what would it look like to better connect your committee with the innovation solutions?
So I will say that Molly Poppy and her team they've been very engaged with us over the time that we've been on the board. And she's expressed, being open to having further conversation and looping us in. So we do feel like there's definitely room for us to continue to grow in that space with them. So I think, but I appreciate how attentive she is. She and her team are, they check in with us pretty regularly, which is great.
That's great to hear. And do you feel your committee has currently the resources it needs to continue that collaboration? Or any challenge?
I think resources is a good question. I think we talked about this a little bit before, and we, as a board, haven't had the opportunity to really explore what resources we would need. What does that look like for us? Because we really don't know what that means. We're all volunteers. We're, kind of scattered across the city. And so when we come together, our time is really tight, and we've got to, try to figure out how to fit in all of these things into this 2-hour time slot. So we haven't had the opportunity to really dig into what it is that we would need. And so I think that's a great question, and I will take it back to our board and see how we can address that.
Okay, I would love to hear more about, what would it look like to have a properly resourced citizen advisory board. I fully appreciate unpaid volunteering work, but I would love to know more what's possible, what the statute allows for, what our budgetary, possibilities are, because this is a lot of work that we're asking you all to do. And want to make sure that we're setting you up for success, and not just as a place to bring recurrent issues to our table without a way to dig deeper, further engage your members and your communities into the work. So just that.
Thank you for that. I'm sure the members of the CAB will greatly appreciate your consideration.
Director Ortiz.
Thank you for your time and your leadership.
Director Eady.
I just concur with what has been said. Doing a great job. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Director Lee.
Yeah, just wanted to thank you for your leadership, but also bringing these concerns to light because, you know, we're all experiencing them. And so it's good to have a feedback from all perspectives. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Director Jakes.
Yes, I'd like to know, will her report or will a report from the Citizens Advisory Board be given to us as she has read it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Our next item of business on the agenda is President's report, which will be given by our acting president, Dora Larson.
Morning. Thank you, Chairman and directors. Before I begin, I also just want to thank Ms. Raby and Ms. Saltzman for their reports. I spoke with both of them yesterday. We met previously, but I wanted to make sure they knew how much we value their input and the work that they're doing. I think they're an incredible resource for us to identify riders' concerns. I think we've seen some themes even across their reports today coming through that I hope to address during my time I'm speaking today and in an ongoing way. So I just want to thank them for their service and really look forward to continued partnership with them in this work. I wanted to also speak today as I begin this period of transition in leading the agency and let you know a bit of what I'm thinking about and focused on and working on already since taking on the role last week. As I had spoken to you, I'm really looking at this time and focusing on stability as well as opportunity. I think you don't need to look any further than the weather plan today to know how important staying focused on our core function as an agency is and the massive responsibility we have to safely carry 1 million people throughout the city in a variety of circumstances. So my first focus is, of course, maintaining that work and keeping management focused on delivering that service in the way that we know how to do. I also say stability in achieving with regards to what we've achieved in the last year with regards to service and maintaining those gains. Because I think as we've seen also discussed today, service reliability is about frequency and access. We noticed also Ms. Raby and Ms. Saltzman also mentioned how service reliability has to do with accessibility and ADA concerns as well. It also has to do with security. It's a core aspect of what we need to maintain. Our workforce numbers are back, but we need to work hard to maintain that and continue to grow throughout the year. I also, though, know that there's a lot of opportunity during this time. Any change brings a natural opportunity to look at issues with a fresh view, to set a tone that is responsive to what we know riders and stakeholders want to hear from CTA. So I'm focused on that as well. I'm really jumping at any opportunity to move CTA forward in a couple key areas. Outreach and engagement. I've spent my initial days reaching out to city council members, elected officials, key stakeholders and partners like Ms. Raby and Ms. Saltzman to let them know how to reach me and to make sure they know that we're here to partner with them during this time and moving forward. I think that's a really important aspect as well, given the current legislative conversation, so that people know CTA's priorities and the work that we're doing and that leadership is committed and available to discuss those concerns. I'm also reaching out to employees. We have a massive organization of over 11,000 people. And I know a time of transition and new leadership can cause anxiety and concern. So I want people to see me. I've been out across Chicago Garage, 77th Garage, Harlem Terminal, as well as the new RPM sites. I want people to know leadership appreciates them and wants to hear from them, and also just know who I am and know a bit about me as a person during this period. And that's really been one of the best parts of this time. Our employees are incredible, savvy people who know this city and know our our issues better than anybody. I mean, they're riders as well. And I often say, you know, our riders and customers are on our system on their way to commute or on their trip. Our employees are on our system for hours at a time, right? They know deeply the issues that we're facing and have incredible ideas about how to also come at some of these issues. So I've really enjoyed those conversations and plan to be out regularly. And I am focused on the rider experience. I think maintaining service, achieving the service levels that we have gives us this opportunity to look inward at what we know people want to see. We see common themes across people's experience around cleanliness, around smoking, around speaking with the CTA about what they're seeing and having a way to communicate with us and send those experiences. And the chatbot you see coming up as something that people are really valuing. I use it myself as a regular rider and input what I see on the system through that mechanism as well. And we're seeing trends, right? We've had it going for a period. So I've really asked the team in these initial days to dive in to what we're seeing there. And the smoking issue does come up. I mean, as a primary complaint that we're seeing through chatbot and other forums. And I think as we've seen talked about today, not all rule violations are created equal. And I think smoking has an ability to really set a tone for a rider that is not indicative of what we want them to see. If you're a CTA employee, I think when you also see smoking, one of the things that strikes me is I'm looking at a clean, on-time train that just got a bad reputation because of that smell of smoke, right? And that's one of the things that can really frustrate me, in addition to, you know, the poor experience created by that. For that reason, we've looked at what the chatbot is giving us, for example, and made improvements even how people can report information. So it allows you to report what rail car you're on, but the team also worked with the security team to have a new way to approach what station you're approaching, which gives us information of where people are reporting smoking in the system on a more regular basis. And what we're looking at now is looking at deploying resources in a targeted way to those areas to make sure we are messaging and removing people who might be smoking, telling them that's a rule violation. And so I'm going to come back to you with that plan as it develops, but I wanted you to know that's a focus of mine because we're hearing loud and clear that we want riders to know we care about that, and that's an important aspect of their experience. The chatbot also offers really great information across other categories as well. And what we're going to begin to work at is a plan around responding in more real time to what we're seeing in the chatbot. As you can imagine, that's very resource heavy. You've got to have people available to say that something happened, send it to the right people who can send the right people there and get them there. So, but we're putting something in motion with our control center and with staff to pilot out some more scenarios where we respond in real time. We want riders to know we're doing that and to report back out on that. So I will be coming back to you to talk about some more initiatives around that front as well. Also our partnerships, and I was happy to hear CDOT's attendance at the ADA Advisory Committee, and I know that came up, and I'm happy to hear some fruitful conversation came from that. That's key, and it's something I want to work on in continuing to improve our work with other city agencies. I think riders understand that we can't solve major societal issues ourselves, but they do expect us to work together with the agencies that contribute to solving those problems and to be a key player in those conversations. And I want to meet that expectation and let people know that. You know, the Department of Family and Social Services is, of course, a key partner with our unsheltered population on our system. One of the things I'm working with the team on is exploring expanding the capacity for beds that homeless people on our system may need. As you can imagine, and I think you've heard before, you know, that can be a roadblock to getting people full services that they need. They may be interested. We've got social service workers out there talking to them, but there may not be a capacity at a shelter. And it's an incredibly frustrating circumstance for everyone involved. So we know that with more funds, we could potentially expand the number of beds that are allotted specifically to the CTA outreach efforts. So I'm having my team look at that to execute that because I think that's one key way that could improve the effectiveness of that work. And again, have riders know that that issue matters to us and that we have a responsibility to the people on our system to work further on that issue. So I'm excited about the time ahead. We've also got some upcoming new service enhancements that we'll be talking about next month that will further enhance the reliability and frequency of our network. I know also, we have many audiences at this time, including state legislatures. So part of the reason I'm voicing this work today is to make sure that people know we're interested and committed in making these issues better. And it is my hope that in doing that, they show our work on that and we can be focused on the funding that we need and not distracted by that other issues or concern that that's not something we're focused on. So that's a little bit of my method in raising it with you today and keeping you updated on it, because these are not ordinary times for us in many ways. And the work that we're doing is on a stage that matters for our financial health and our future. And I want to make sure people are aware of that. So I'll stop there for today. I appreciate it and look forward to talking with you further.
Thank you, Nora, for your report and for stepping into this role following Dorable's retirement. Transition in leadership, is all for an organization this large is often, difficult, especially with somebody who was there for so many years. We appreciate your leadership and we look forward to continuing during this transition period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. We'll take comments and questions from other members of the board. Director Jha.
Thank you. I actually really enjoyed your pursuit of pictures, getting on the rides. I think that's a really, really good start. I think people want to hear from you. Appreciate you being out there, and I really enjoyed those. We need to keep doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Requejo.
Same here. Congratulations. Thank you for accepting the responsibility in such a critical time for transit for our country. I know some people, elected officials, don't want us to talk about this, but I want to talk about gender equity and the importance of you being our first woman in charge of the agency, because gender inequity is a problem and exists and should be talked about and addressed. Appreciate the focus on our housed riders and the emphasis on vulnerable populations. We haven't talked about this today, but I'm very proud of the Know Your Rights campaign to help protect our immigrant population from the persecution that they're going through right now. And just an overall question on, Nora, areas where you think there is opportunity to better work with our riders and our workers in particular to advance some of your priorities, especially this year being a complicated one. We'd love to hear more about, where are some of those specific opportunities to better engage our riders and our workers in finding solutions, making decisions together, showing a united front in some of those core issues.
Certainly, and I'll continue to keep you updated on that. I think on the worker front, we're excited actually on Monday to be launching an app in which employees will get communications directly from us. In a agency like ours with over 11,000 people across the city moving at all times, communication can be an issue. And that's one step that hopefully will kind of streamline some information. I was happy to see when I was out there, they were aware of the app and kind of looking forward to seeing what it was. That's just one example, but I think communication is key, Director Requejo. I mean, we've seen the chatbot get talked about a lot and improving the customer complaint system. And I'd also say the commendation system. I think I'd love to have a focus actually also on more positive feedback, not because I don't want to hear the complaints, absolutely, but just as valuable as knowing what employees and situations that were really positive for people. And so I think there's a lot of places we can enhance that two-way communication between us, and I'll look forward to keeping you updated on that.
I appreciate that, and just wanted to point out precisely because of this, I get a lot of constructive feedback from writers about things they don't like and want to change. But I get also a lot of folks saying, how can I help? Right. And I think there's a lot of people who want to help, have great ideas out there. And I know we don't have yet the infrastructure to absorb all of that. So I would love for that to be a priority moving forward and building on the positive energy that does exist to our riders and the pride they have on having a system like CTA that they can call their own. So thank you.
I agree. Yeah.
Director Ortiz.
Yes, thank you again. Congratulations on leading our agency. I want to reiterate Director Requejo's comment on Knowing Your Rights campaign. I think it was very timely and it was important for all of us to be a part of that work. So I also want to congratulate the team. I appreciate you looking at this opportunity as an opportunity for change and an opportunity for growth. It's definitely any change provides that opportunity. So I'm excited to see that you're really taking that on as a way of thinking about things slightly different or in your own way of the experience that you have with the agency. The app was something that we have been looking for a long time, whether it was the app or something else, of really being able to connect with our employees, our team members. And it's really exciting to be able to see something that's been brought out so that at least there's more direct communication. Hopefully it's also a great way to do two-way communication and being able to connect in all ways. And then the other thing is on coalition building and alignment, right? There was a lot of conversations about how the city and different departments within the city are very much, hand in hand with the work that we do. So building coalition and constant report with these agencies, maybe individually, but also collectively around them. Not every department talks to the other department constantly or efficiently. And so it'd be great if we can help kind of address that by meeting with them, again, individually or as a group. I believe a lot in collaborations, and I think that's a great space for us to lead. And the other piece is around coalition building, both with writers, with other elected officials, with other organizations in terms of this is our CTA. And how do we all take ownership in ways that we can support or we can lead or we can be part of this awareness of what we need to be resourced appropriately to provide a great service. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Eady.
Yes, I joined in congratulating you, Madam President, and very optimistic about what you just shared. I love those two planks of stability and opportunity. I think that is the right focus. And I do appreciate you approaching it and connecting the dots as I saw it, with your outreach and engagement to the elected officials. Certainly nothing is better than going directly to the workforce, connecting with those individuals, hearing from them, and then even the fact that you paid attention to that signals to them the type of leadership that you will be providing, also with partnerships with CDI, DFSS, certainly all those kinds of things. It's just connecting dots as I heard it. And then again, being optimistic about the future. So I think that you're laying out a foundation for yourself, and it's going to be very engaging for others. And I think that that's going to be a major plus. So I want to just commend you for your initial approach. And I think connecting those dots, in my opinion, could not be a better plan. So
thank you, Director Eady.
Director Jakes.
New president, thank you so much for what you've done. I was on social media, I think it was last week, and it was nice to see you out engaging with the employees. I tend to functioned by what Theodore Roosevelt is attributed to saying, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And you showed so much about how much you care already. And I also appreciate the fact that you are not walking. I'm sorry, I'm at a friend's house. I appreciate the fact that you are charting your own course. So thank you so much, and looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. Director Lee?
Hi, Nora. Thanks for the report, and also very much reiterating what everyone else has said. We're looking forward to working with you. I'm really encouraged that you're taking proactive steps to really engage with all the different stakeholders across the board, including the frontline employees, because you're right, they ride the system all the time. They know so much more about how we can improve, and I think that it's great that you're not prioritizing one group over another, and it's really important to be collaborative, and I'm looking forward for this board to work together with you in this transitional period. So thank you, Nora.
Thank you, Director Lee.
Thank you, Nora. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to thank my fellow board members and staff here at CTA for participating in our recent board retreat held last month. A great opportunity for us to step outside of our regular meeting and to reflect on the board's work and assess our performance as an agency and strategically plan for the future. Just as importantly, it allowed us to deepen our working relationship and get to know each other a little bit better, both board members as well as staff. So I want to commend each of you for taking a full Saturday, because it was a full 9 to 5, right? Marathon. But you hung in there, and it was a good opportunity for us to be productive in terms of planning for the future. So I want to thank each of you for your efforts on that today. Thank you very much. At this point, the next item on the agenda is item number 7, executive session. Kent Ray, is my understanding that we have a session.
Yes, Chairman, the board will move into closed session pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2C1, 11, and 21.
I will now entertain a motion to recess executive session. Previous council.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Shaw, that the board will move into executive session. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Shaw? Yes. Director Raquel?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Jake?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay, the motion passes.
Thank you. We will be in executive session. Entertain a motion to return to open session. Jet?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Ja, that the board return to open session. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Rakeo?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Edie?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
The motion passes.
We will now address board agenda item 7A. Kent?
Thank you, Chairman. In item 7A, the board reviewed the closed session meeting minutes for January the 15th, 2025.
Yeah, please have a motion to approve the closed session minutes for January 15th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Ja, that the closed session meeting minutes from January 15th, 2025 be approved. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Rakeo?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Edie?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
The motion passes.
We will now address board agenda item 7. Board matters. Georgette, do we have any board matters?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any board matters today.
The next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Director Jakes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee met earlier this morning and approved the January 15th, 2025 committee minutes and reviewed the finance report. The committee reviewed one ordinance, an ordinance authorizing a pilot program agreement with STV Inc. for a safety pilot under the Chicago Transit Authority's Innovation Studio program. The committee also reviewed 9 contracts. The committee placed one ordinance and 9 of the contracts on the omnibus. The committee approved and recommended for board approval 1 ordinance and 9 contracts. This concludes the report of the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee. Thank you.
I will now entertain a motion to approve the omnibus.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Ja, that the omnibus be approved. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Edie?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Rakeo?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
Motion passes.
At this point, it's my understanding that we will not have the construction report this month. Defer that to.
Mr. Chairman, do you have someone who's going to make a motion that the agenda be amended and that the construction report be deferred?
I'd like to make a motion to defer the construction report for our next meeting.
So move.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Ja, that the construction report be deferred to our next meeting. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Rakeo?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Edie? Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Our final order of business is new business. Georgette, is there any new business?
Mr. Chairman, there is no new business.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge a member of our board office staff, Janice Irving, who will be retiring at the end of this month after 28 years of excellent service to the CTA. Janice has been a great support to my office, to this board, and to the employees of CTA through her administration of the Employee Welfare Fund and CTA Deferred Compensation Plan. A lot of Janice's work was behind the scenes, but extremely important to supporting the needs of our employees, particularly in moments of difficulty like the loss of a loved one. In addition to that, she provided administrative support to my office and to the board. You could always be counted on to quickly troubleshoot any questions, issue or respond to a request brought to her. Janice, thank you for your dedicated service and congratulations on your retirement. You will be missed, and we expect you to be back to plan the Christmas party. So thank you, Janice Irving, for 28 years of wonderful service here. Since there's no further business to come before the board, I have a motion to adjourn the Chicago Transit Board meeting on February 12, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Ja, that the meeting be adjourned. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Rakeo?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.